There is a particular kind of pain that doesn't announce itself as grief. It arrives quietly in the middle of an ordinary Tuesday, when you reach for your phone out of habit, and then remember there is no one to reach for. It sits in the silence of a room that used to feel full. It isn't loud, it is hollow. And the strangest part isn't the sadness. The strangest part is the disorientation. The feeling that you don't quite know who you are without this person. But some essential coordinate has been removed from your internal map, and now you are standing in familiar territory that no longer makes sense. Most people call this heartbreak. But what is actually breaking? That is the question worth sitting with. Because if you only treat heartbreak as loss, as something taken from you, you will spend your energy trying to get it back, or trying to replace it, or trying to numb it. But if you understand what is actually happening beneath the surface, something different becomes possible. Let's start with what psychology has learned about how we attach to other people. When we enter a close relationship, we don't just share time and affection. We begin to organize ourselves around another person. Psychologists who study attachment describe how we use our partners as what they call a secure base, a reference point from which we navigate the world. When that base is present, we feel regulated, calm, capable. When it disappears, the nervous system responds as though something structurally important has been removed. Not metaphorically, physiologically. This is why heartbreak can feel like withdrawal. The body was calibrated to the presence of another person, and now it is recalibrating in the dark. But there is a deeper layer that attachment theory alone doesn't fully explain. And this is where Carl Jung becomes useful. Jung observed that in intimate relationships, we do something remarkable and somewhat dangerous. We project. We take parts of ourselves, parts we haven't fully claimed, parts we admire, parts we fear, parts we buried long ago, and we place them onto the other person. We fall in love not only with who they are, but with what they carry for us. Jung called one of these projected figures the anima or animus, the inner image of the opposite, the soul figure we seek in another. But the projection goes further than that. We also project our unlived potential, our sense of worth, our permission to be soft, or strong, or playful, or serious. We hand these things to another person for safekeeping, often without realizing we've done it. And then the relationship ends, and suddenly all of those projected pieces come flying back. Or worse, they don't come back at all, they just disappear with the person who was holding them. And you are left feeling not only sad, but diminished, smaller than you were, less real. This is the identity collapse that so many people experience after a significant breakup, and it is almost never talked about honestly. We talk about missing the person, we rarely talk about missing the self that existed in relation to them. Here is something worth naming directly. If a relationship was the primary place where you felt seen, valued, or worthy, then losing it doesn't just hurt, it destabilizes your entire sense of self. And that is not weakness. That is what happens when we ask another person to carry something that belongs to us. The question is not whether this happened. For most people in most relationships, it happens to some degree. The question is what you do with the awareness now. Mind falls into after loss that is worth recognizing. It replays. It returns to the same conversations, the same moments, the same turning points. It asks what if, and if only, and why didn't I? This is not irrational. The mind is trying to find the variable it can change, the lever it can pull, the version of events where the outcome is different. But the past is not a problem to be solved. It is a territory that has already been mapped, and no amount of mental revisiting will redraw its borders. Marcus Aurelius, in his private writings that we now know as the Meditations, returned again and again to a single discipline: the separation of what is within our power from what is not. He wasn't writing for an audience. He was writing to remind himself, in the middle of an empire's worth of pressure and grief, that peace is not found by controlling outcomes. It is found by acting with integrity in the present and releasing the rest. This is not resignation. It is not indifference. It is something much harder and much more useful. The decision to stop spending your energy on what cannot be changed and to redirect it toward what can. Release is not the same as approval. Letting go of the past does not mean the pain was acceptable or that you deserved what happened. or that the relationship didn't matter. It means you are choosing to return to your own life rather than remain a prisoner of a story that has already ended. That distinction matters enormously, because many people resist letting go because it feels like betrayal of the love, of the grief, of the self that was hurt. But holding on is not loyalty. It is a way of staying in a place that no longer exists. Now, there is something else worth addressing. Sometimes heartbreak is not only about the relationship that ended. Sometimes it opens a door to something older. Attachment patterns don't begin in adulthood. They begin in childhood, in the earliest relationships we had with caregivers, who were sometimes present and sometimes not. Sometimes warm and sometimes frightening. Sometimes consistent and sometimes impossible to read. Those early experiences become templates. They shape what we expect from love, what we tolerate, what we unconsciously seek out. A breakup can crack open those older wounds. The grief you feel may not be only for the person who left. It may be for every time you felt abandoned, unseen, or not enough. The present loss becomes a doorway into the past, and suddenly you are grieving more than one thing at once, without knowing it. This is why some heartbreaks feel disproportionate, why a relationship that lasted 8 months can produce grief that feels like it has no bottom. The current loss is real, but it is also resonating with something older and deeper that has been waiting for acknowledgement. If this is happening for you, the most important thing to understand is this: the depth of the pain is not evidence that you are broken. It is evidence that something real is asking to be seen. Jung believed that the psyche moves toward wholeness, not comfort, not ease, wholeness. And sometimes the path toward wholeness runs directly through the most painful experiences of our life, not around them. The parts of yourself that you projected onto another person, the worth, the permission, the unlived potential, those parts are not gone. They were always yours. The relationship simply made them visible by giving them somewhere to land. Now the work is to bring them home, to recognize that what you loved in another person was in part a reflection of something that lives in you. This is not a comfortable idea. It requires sitting with the grief rather than escaping it. It requires asking not only, what did I lose, but what did I learn about myself from loving this person? What did I allow myself to feel that I had not felt before? What did I become, even briefly, that I want to carry forward? Heartbreak is not only destruction, it is also information. It shows you where you were living outside yourself, where you were dependent in ways that left you fragile, where you had handed over your sense of value to someone else for safekeeping. And that information, as painful as it is to receive, is the beginning of something more durable than the relationship that delivered it. You are not less than you were before this person. You are not incomplete without them. You are someone who loved, who was changed by that love, and who is now in the difficult and necessary process of reclaiming the parts of yourself that got scattered in the falling apart. That process is not linear, it is not quick, and it does not require you to pretend you are fine before you are, but it is yours, and it leads somewhere real. And if this spoke to a part of you that rarely gets heard, stay with that feeling for a moment. You are not broken because you feel deeply. You are only beginning to understand yourself. Subscribe to Inside the Labyrinth for more reflections on the hidden patterns of the human mind.